Well, friends, Donald Trump, fresh off his crushing defeat in California, where a federal court ruled that his militarization of the streets of LA was unlawful, well, Trump just got sued again. This time by the Attorney General for the District of Columbia for his militarization of the streets of D.C. And friends, in what I would call a related story, we just saw in a court filing what some Fox News executives think about the DC U.S. Attorney, former Fox host, Jeanine Pirro, and wait until you see what her former colleagues at Fox think of her. Oof, that's gotta sting. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, fortunately for we the people, the lawsuits just keep on coming. The lawsuits challenging Donald Trump's unlawful and unconstitutional conduct. This time, it's Trump's attempt to militarize the streets of our nation's capital. And it looks like the people of D.C. have had about enough of Donald Trump sending National Guard troops from all over the country, all from red states, to invade and militarize the District of Columbia. Here's the new reporting. This from Politico. Headline: D.C. sues Trump over National Guard deployment. The lawsuit comes nearly a month after Trump's announcement he would deploy federal law enforcement to the city. And that article begins, D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab sued the Trump administration on Thursday for deploying the National Guard to Washington, saying it infringes on the city's sovereignty and violates laws prohibiting the use of the military for domestic law enforcement. Quote, the deployment of National Guard troops to police district streets without the district's consent infringes on its sovereignty and right to self-governance, lawyers for D.C. wrote in the lawsuit, which was filed in federal district court in Washington. Quote, the deployment also risks inflaming tensions and fueling distrust toward local law enforcement. And it inflicts economic injuries, depressing business activities and tourism that form the backbone of the local economy and tax base. No American jurisdiction should be involuntarily subjected to military occupation. And friends, as I mentioned, Donald Trump is fresh off a crushing defeat just days ago in federal court in California. A federal judge ruled Tuesday that Trump's troop deployment in California violated laws against using the military for domestic purposes. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer, a San Francisco-based appointee of Bill Clinton, found that troops were actively participating in local policing in ways that ran afoul of the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which limits the use of the military in enforcing civilian laws. And friends, here's just the first couple of paragraphs in this new lawsuit filed by D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab. In the case of the District of Columbia, plaintiff versus Donald Trump and others, defendants, complaint for declaratory and injunctive relief. Over 2,200 National Guard troops from 7 states and the District of Columbia are currently patrolling the streets of the district dressed in military fatigues, carrying rifles, and driving armored vehicles. The U.S. Department of Defense has directed these troops to conduct core law enforcement activities, including presence patrols and community patrols. The U.S. Department of Justice has also deputized these troops to engage in additional law enforcement activities, including searches, seizures, and arrests. And despite the fact that these troops are in state militia status and thus are legally required to be under the sole command of their governors, the president has placed them under the control of the nation's military leadership, which exercises day-to-day supervision over the law enforcement operations they have been designated to conduct. The residents and leaders of the District of Columbia have not requested any of this. But the president has determined that the district, which he has called a filthy and crime-ridden embarrassment, should be federalized so that his administration can run it the way it's supposed to be run. He has therefore disregarded Congress's decision half a century ago to afford the residents of the district the powers of local self-government, including the authority to police the district as they see fit. In so doing, he has run roughshod over a fundamental tenet of American democracy, that the military should not be involved in domestic law enforcement. So friends, we'll stay on top of any developments in this new lawsuit, but now we've got to turn to a related story. And the reason I say it's related is because it also involves law enforcement in the District of Columbia, but it doesn't involve a military invasion of D.C. Maybe we could call it a Fox invasion of D.C., because as you know, former Fox News host Jeanine Pirro is the top prosecutor in Washington, D.C., the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. And as you probably also know, Pirro has been failing spectacularly in that job, in that position, as evidenced by 6 grand juries now telling her, hell no, we're not going to indict these felony cases against protesters and others because you tell us to. The evidence doesn't support felony indictments. And whereas we are seeing in real time how Jeanine Pirro is failing spectacularly as U.S. Attorney for D.C., based on some new reporting, it looks like that's something that her former Fox colleagues have known about her all along. Look at this new reporting from NPR. Headline: Fox bosses privately called U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro reckless maniac and more. And that article begins: a Fox News executive has called a prominent Trump appointee a reckless maniac. Another Fox executive said, I don't trust her to be responsible. A third condemned her for the tendency to find random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. And a Fox corporate board member called a public statement of hers insane. And the person they were talking about is Jeanine Pirro, now the United States top law enforcement official for Washington, D.C. At the time, she was a top-rated star on Fox News itself. Her colleagues made those remarks in the aftermath of the 2020 presidential election, when Pirro used her platform to amplify baseless claims that victory had been stolen from President Trump. The exchanges are quoted in legal documents made public last month in a defamation lawsuit brought by Smartmatic, a voting technology company, against Fox News. And in that lawsuit, Pirro is named as a defendant. As the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Pirro is the public face of Trump's crackdown on crime in the district, with armed troops and federal law enforcement officers patrolling neighborhoods. That's right, friends. Her colleagues at Fox, the people familiar with her work, said that Jeanine Pirro is a reckless maniac, is not to be trusted to be responsible, is prone to finding random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites and is someone who makes insane public statements. That is the kind of person who holds in her hands the prosecutorial responsibilities that are impacting every DC resident. My God, the people of DC do not deserve that. They deserve so much better. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.